Today we're talking about the sequel to the critically acclaimed Gladiator film. Gladiator 2 has been coming for a while now, and it's proving to be an interesting film even in development. Before we begin, please be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an update on movie news. What happened in the previous Gladiator movie? Before we can fully cover Gladiator 2, you have to go back and look at what happened in the original film, as it is a direct sequel. The original Gladiator came out in 2000 and followed the tale of Maximus, a former Roman general who is betrayed and ends up becoming a gladiator. His journey would take him across Rome through several battles and eventually change the fate of the empire. Gladiator was a massive success at the box office, with critics making it one of Ridley Scott's most successful films. It even managed to grab 5 awards, including Best Picture.
And the Oscar goes to Gladiator.
To say that this was a major success would be an understatement, and plans for a sequel to the film began almost immediately. Still, as you might be able to tell, it took a while. So let's see what came out of the efforts to make a sequel to this hit film and what we can expect. What is Gladiator 2 about? Gladiator 2 has been very tight about the plot setting and overall arc of the film. With so many years in production and various rewrites, it's needless to say that the film has gone through a couple of different iterations throughout that time. We do know some things that have slipped out though, so let's go ahead and take a look at those to see what might be in the upcoming film. One of the first things we know is that Russell Crowe is not going to be returning for this installment in the franchise, at least not on screen.
But no, I'm not involved. Maximus has departed the world.
Crowe was the main star of the previous movie, but with a nearly 20-year gap between films and nearly as long a time in the film, he will not be seen on screen. Maximus died, and that is permanent whether fans like it or not, but despite this, Crowe himself may not be done, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But we know that the film will follow the character of Lucius from the first film, who was only a child during those events. The son of Lucilla and the nephew of Commodus, he had a minor. Still, he had a defined part in the story of Gladiator. This next entry will follow his life as an adult, and it's taken a turn from what it was supposed to be previously. It appears that Lucius has followed Maximus's inadvertent lifestyle and decided to become a gladiator, forsaking his role as a Caesar and Emperor of Rome. Some parts of the film might not even be set in Rome, or at least be on the outskirts. We have seen a gladiator pit that's being used for part of the film. It's much too small to be the one in Rome, suggesting that Lucius' life will take him further than the normal bounds of the empire, or at least what would be considered civilized. Some talk around casting suggests that he could have to return to Rome when the new emperor proved to be just as much of a terror as Commodus.
Am I not merciful?
This is just speculation, though the film could lean in an entirely different direction than what these leaks suggest. While we're on it, we should discuss the casting we know about this film. Who is going to be in Gladiator 2? Despite the fact that we're quickly closing in on the date for this new Gladiator film, we know very little about its cast. As a matter of fact, only 3 characters have been confirmed to appear in the film so far. Of the 3, only 2 have actual roles attached to their names, so to say there's a lot to find out would be an understatement. The first confirmed actor is Paul Mescal, who is known best for his work on After Sun and Normal People. He'll be playing the now-adult Lucius as the main protagonist in this film. He does not have a lot of big films under his belt, but he has received some claims from his previous projects. However, someone with a lot of prestige has been attached to the film, Denzel Washington. He does not have a confirmed role in the film, but many have speculated that he'll be a mentor to the now-adult Lucius. When approached by Ridley Scott for the role, Denzel was apparently quite excited to play what he thought was a badass character again. Having worked with Scott before on his film American Gangster, this is quite a statement. The last confirmed actor is Barry Keoghan, recently commended and praised for his work in The Banshees of Inisherin. He will be playing the Roman Emperor Geta, who was the emperor around this time. There's some speculation that he may be the villain in the film, but that hasn't been confirmed in any way yet. Other actors and actresses who appeared in the first Gladiator film that did not die also have the potential to appear in this one. In particular, Connie Nielsen and Jaemun Hounsoo were still alive at the end of the previous film. However, there has been no indication of whether they will be in this film. It would perhaps be foolish not to use them if they would be one of the few things still tying this film to the previous one in the series. Gladiator 2's production. Gladiator 2 has certainly had an interesting production when you consider it. Technically, you would have started almost immediately after the first one became so successful. The film underwent numerous rewrites and iterations of ideas over more than 20 years since the first one. Now, though, a script has been locked in, as has the film's director and crew. The film would have only just started production in March of 2023, but we do at least know who is working on the film now. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Ridley Scott has returned to direct the sequel to one of his most successful films. Scott has had many successful films, ranging from Alien to Blade Runner, but Gladiator has always stood out among his catalog for its historical setting and sense of epic storytelling. With this in mind, Scott has brought on many of the crew he usually works with for this film, with a prominent example being his writer. David Scarpa is the writer who penned the final version of the script used for this film. He's previously collaborated with Ridley Scott on the film All the Money in the World. Considering it was up to him to condense down all the possible angles for the sequel from what came before, this was truly an immense undertaking for any writer. While it's not been confirmed in any way, there have been rumors that Russell Crowe may serve as a producer or some type of behind-the-scene role for the film. These are only rumors, though, so it's difficult to say how authentic they may be. With cast and crew assembled and production already underway, the film is aiming for a release next year from the time of this video. It is specifically aiming to be released on November 22, 2024. This is over a year away, and we don't even have a teaser trailer yet for the film, so it'll be interesting to see if it can hold on to such a relatively close release date. There's also some debate as to how the film might release. A theatrical run would make sense with the popularity of its predecessor, but streaming is always an option. Paramount owns the right to the Gladiator franchise, and they've been dumping considerable resources into Paramount Plus. So many wonder if we might actually see it debut on there or only be in theaters for a limited run before coming to the streaming service. The previous version of the film. If you followed the progress of the Gladiator sequel over its many, many years of trying to get off the ground, you know that it was supposed to be an entirely different film. For one thing, Maximus was supposed to come back, possibly to fight some Greco-Roman gods.
And it was about bringing him back. It's a good idea.
They had betrayed the primary pantheon, and he would fight them to be reunited with his family. It wouldn't have been heavily based on mythology and then something akin to a live-action god of war. After this had been completed, there was a possibility that in the same film or in another sequel, Maximus would have traveled through time from war to war, eventually ending in the Pentagon for the United States. While this would have been interesting, it doesn't fit the first Gladiator film's tone or nature.
This is not it. This is not it.
That having been said, it would have been very cool to see a movie with this concept, just maybe not Gladiator. That's all we have for Gladiator 2 for the time being.
Are you not entertained?
While you're here, why don't you click on the next video and the recommended one so you can learn even more movie news?